Hello, this is Adam Bernard with AutoPerspectives back for another news roundup. It's a bit of a Munich hangover this week. There was a lot of news coming out of IAA, kind of like drinking from a fire hose. So we have a couple of interesting tidbits, no gigantic product launches, but some interesting things worth talking about. We'll start with Toyota's new EV flagship. If you're in China, you're in luck. If you're in the rest of the world, sorry, but this is a China-only product. This BZ7 sedan was shown in concept form at the Shanghai Motor Show, and we are just now getting some additional details and photos of the actual production vehicle, which, to be honest, looks pretty darn sharp. It is built in partnership with GAC, one of Toyota's other partners in China. Curiously not built with BYD, who have done some other EVs with Toyota over there. Right now, there's only a single configuration, a 268 horsepower motor, and a lithium iron phosphate battery of unspecified capacity. Noteworthy here, the LFP, generally those are for more lower cost, value-oriented vehicles. This is a bit more of a flagship sedan, but there is better temperature performance. The BZ7 is a little larger than the Model S, so it is essentially a full-size sedan for Toyota. And up front, the Toyota hammerhead face. If you've seen other Toyota cars of late, you'll recognize that look. A lot of interesting technology going on under the skin here. This is the first Toyota to use Xiaomi's human by car by home ecosystem. Xiaomi, you'll recall, is the consumer electronics giant in China that recently launched a very, very competitive SUV on their own. Sedan, and then followed that up with an SUV. But Xiaomi still does home appliances. So now you can actually control your home appliances from inside your BZ7 or from your Toyota smartphone app. So if you are driving home and it's warm outside and you think your air conditioning needs to be dialed down a bit, you can use your touchscreen, or if your passengers there, they can whip out their smartphone. Other partnerships that were announced at the reveal of the BZ7 include Momenta, which is their automated driving expert in China. That system will be supported with LiDAR. LiDAR, normally something you see on a luxury branded vehicle, not a mainstream branded vehicle. So we're starting to see LiDAR become more democratized. And Huawei, the smartphone maker, Huawei also is involved with a number of automakers on EVs, a number of partnerships. Huawei has done the drive units for the BZ7 and also the Harmony OS cockpit system. The interior that you see on the upper right is rather nice, a variety of colors and lights, etc., with a nice big floating central touchscreen. So again, won't be seeing it outside of China, but it does indicate that Toyota is a little more serious about EVs than maybe people had been thinking up to this point. And that takes us to our second story about a couple of Toyota iconic nameplates going electric. Toyota, of course, is very well known for the Prius, creating hybrids, putting hybrids in just about every product segment, and have often been accused of ignoring or second-guessing EVs, criticizing them publicly, propaganda in the Japanese home market. But Toyota seems to be ramping up their EV activity, both in China and outside of China. And this is a North American specific story. They have confirmed that 2 new 3-row electric SUVs will be built in Kentucky starting next year. Unnamed sources have suggested that the nameplates Land Cruiser and RAV4, both of which are pretty iconic within the Toyota portfolio, are going to be used. Other sources have suggested that instead of RAV4, they might use Highlander, which makes a little more sense because there were very few 3-row RAV4s built and sold here in the US. Highlander might make a little more sense as a 3-row entry. The photo that you're looking at here is the Land Cruiser SE. This is a concept shown at the 2023 Japan Mobility Show. We haven't seen anything. We've seen a couple of things that might be the other 3-row SUV, but it's probably a little too early to guess. It's expected that both vehicles will use the recently updated eTNG platform that underpins the facelifted Toyota BZ, formerly known as the BZ4X. And again, this gets back to Toyota's commitment to EVs. The initial BZ4X and its sibling, the Lexus RZ, were frankly not terribly impressive as EVs. The range was low, the charging speed was slow, the performance was mediocre. There really wasn't a lot to recommend them, and the updates have addressed a lot of that, including performance and charge speed and range. And they're definitely now competitive, not necessarily best in class, but definitely not anything to sneeze at. So we will be seeing some 2 additional Toyota EVs showing up here in the US by the end of next year. And finally, something a little different. This is the Toyota e-Palette. It's actually the 2nd generation model. It's a zero emissions people mover that was originally shown at CES back in 2018. and then was used to transport athletes at the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. So it never really entered the market per se. With the second gen model, Toyota has now decided to offer it to fleets and cities and whoever needs a box on wheels, as it were. Note the spelling of the name. It's not a pallet, P-A-L-L-E-T, like a platform for carrying things, but a palette, like what an artist uses for their paints. So something a little more artistic, I suppose. If you have about $197,000, you can purchase one of these. It is eligible for the $107,000 government subsidy, which now gets a little under $100,000. So definitely not a cheap investment, but obviously it's zero emissions and lower running costs should help the business case overall. The one that you're looking at here is configured as a 17-passenger people mover. You can also get it set up as a commercial van for deliveries or even a mobile shop if you want to do a hot dog stand or a little cupcake shop or whatever in downtown Tokyo. The footprint is a little smaller than a typical US minivan. It's a little shorter in overall length, but a little wider overall. It launches with level 2 autonomy, which means no hands-free capability yet. But they are targeting LiDAR-enabled level 4 autonomy, which is basically hand-off and mind-off, which means it doesn't really need a driver, just maybe for safety, but someone can be sitting in the driver's seat and using doing a crossword if they're so inclined. And that's targeted for 2027. The interior that you see in the bottom right, it's a steer-by-wire yoke and a central driving position. Total range 155 miles, which is probably not bad for the urban cycles it's going to be driving. 200 horsepower, 50 mile an hour top speed. Again, this is not expected to go outside the city. And an 80% charge in 40 minutes with bi-directional charging available. So we'll see who latches onto this. There may be some big cities in Japan like Tokyo that decide it's worth the investment, and we'll see if this winds up paying off for Toyota. We'll switch gears over now to Ford and the Focus. Now, the current Focus hatchback in Europe is scheduled to end production this November. We actually lost it here in the U.S. market 7 years ago. And this follows the end of the Fiesta in 2023. In a recent interview with Autocar, Bill Ford indicated we will be, quote, pleasantly surprised by what's coming, unquote, to Ford's European lineup. And so a new entry has been reported for Ford coming in 2027, which can be built at the Valencia plant in Spain, which can put out about 300,000 vehicles a year. This new entry would be sold in internal combustion and EV variants alongside the Kuga being the European variant of the Escape, and also alongside the new similarly sized Explorer and Capri SUVs, EVs. Now, Ford has trademarked Mythic, Fuse, and Hive, but has also talked about publicly wanting to leverage iconic nameplates. And the story that was an Autocar suggested that this new vehicle might show up as the Focus, and this is their artist impression. Not based on any prototype, nothing camo driving around yet. It's still a little early. To be honest, this is a little confusing because, again, they already have the Kuga in Europe, which is a compact SUV that's available in internal combustion and plug-in hybrid form and hybrid form. They have the Explorer EV, they have the Capri EV, and now they're adding a fourth entry, which is available in ICE and EV variants. It seems like the showroom is going to be pretty cluttered, and to be honest, this doesn't seem to look radically different, at least in its artist's impression from the Kuga. The missed opportunity here, of course, is the Ford Universal EV platform that we heard about a couple of months ago that launches with the new midsize truck, the Maverick EV, as it were, in 2027. The assumption has been that there will be an SUV off of that platform to replace the Escape here in the US. I'm a little mystified why that vehicle would not find its way to Europe as well. As a more value-oriented alternative and maybe something a little smaller than the Capri and the Explorer. So we'll see if that winds up becoming part of the plan at some point. We'll have to wait until Ford clarifies what exactly is coming out of Valencia in 2027. You have probably not heard of the Dreame company if you are not living in China. This is a Chinese home appliance company that is attempting to follow a path initially laid out by Dyson, the vacuum cleaner maker out of the UK. Dreame also makes vacuum cleaners. Dyson had a dream of making a roughly $150,000 luxury electric crossover. That dream died because it turns out that making vehicles from a clean sheet of paper is a lot more complicated. The company, actually the owner of the company, lost about £500 million of his own money investing in this. Dreame has now said that we want to get into the car business as well. They have no doubt seen what Xiaomi has done since they announced their plans 4 years ago launching two very competitive EVs. Dreame announced their first round of funding 2 weeks ago. This apparently has set a record for the fastest financing by a new EV maker in China. And they've apparently been working on this for about 9 months and are targeting a 2027 launch. The founder and CEO of Dreame appears to be an auto enthusiast, and he's formed two business units within Dreame. One is Dreame Automotive, and the other is called Starry, Starry Automotive. The former is targeting Bugatti, and the latter on Rolls-Royce and Bentley, but at prices starting less than $40,000 to just over $80,000. And yes, you can see here that the vehicle, which has been shown in rendered form and will be shown as a prototype at CES in 2026, looks a lot like a Bentley. And, you know, if you went back 10 years, you could find a lot of stories about Chinese automakers ripping off Western automotive designs, Land Rover, Porsche, etc., Ford F-150. And a lot of that seems to have gone by the wayside as these automakers are hiring Western talent and trying to develop their own aesthetics. In the case of Dreame, however, this seems to be a pretty blatant ripoff of Bugatti design cues, although in this case it's done as a sedan with 4 butterfly doors. I strongly suspect that the whatever comes out of Starry Automotive is going to look heavily like some mix between a Bentley and a Rolls-Royce, but we'll have to wait to see. They also did announce a partnership with BNP Paribas to build a factory near Tesla's Berlin plant. So they're looking to get into the European market as well. And with the Berlin plant, that would allow them to sidestep the current tariff situation. Again, this is a pretty aggressive plan by an unknown company with no automotive experience. But we saw Xiaomi do it, and we'll see if Dreame is dreaming big enough to pull it off. And finally, kind of a business discussion. We'll talk about Hyundai here. They had their investor day last week, and there's a huge PDF that dropped. But a lot of interesting things came out of this, especially when you compare what they said this year to what they said last year. Last year, they talked about selling 2 million EVs by 2030. That particular sales target apparently has dropped off the table. Now, it's worth noting that a year ago, many automakers were backing off of their EV plans, cutting down on their EV sales targets, canceling programs, delaying programs. Hyundai did not do any of that. So it looks like they may just be adjusting things just a bit. Again, we haven't seen any delays or canceled programs out of Hyundai, but this 2 million target is dropped. They're still targeting 5.5 million total sales, with 60% of their sales to be electrified. And so that is EV, fuel cell, EREV, hybrid, and plug-in hybrid. Second thing, the Ioniq 3, which was shown as the Concept 3 at the Munich Motor Show, has been confirmed, but only for Europe. So those of you looking for a cool, small, affordable electric hatchback here in North America appear to be out of luck, at least for the moment. They also confirmed new China and India-specific entries. And we've seen a lot of other automakers kind of move away from the global car and do vehicles that are more tailored to a specific region. Third, a new body-on-frame pickup and a possible SUV and an electric van for the US. Now, we knew that Hyundai was working on a body-on-frame pickup, but they were doing it with General Motors, and that was the agreement that was announced a couple of months ago. That vehicle would likely use the GM midsize truck platform and would be targeted for South America. This entry is not that entry. It's something that Hyundai is developing entirely on their own. Now, Hyundai has had the midsize Borrego platform that they used for Kia in the past, and it underpins the Kia Tasman that's on sale in certain non-North American markets. So that may be a source of hardware for this vehicle, but it is definitely come to the US, and they have hinted that there might be an SUV which would give Hyundai a competitor to vehicles like the Wrangler and the Bronco. The electric van is tied to the GM partnership. GM has said that Hyundai will develop an electric van for their brands in the US. So it sounds like Hyundai will sell that under their own Hyundai brand for the US as well. Next is Genesis. Genesis sold about 75,000 vehicles globally in 2024. They're looking to hit 350,000 sales by 2030. That is a nearly 5-fold increase. And in addition to referencing some interesting concepts that they had that might be headed to production, like an off-road oriented SUV, they also mentioned Ultra Bespoke. Ultra Bespoke is something that you get from Rolls-Royce and Ferrari and Bentley, but you don't see it from any Asian luxury brand. And if they can get into the super low volume, ultra customized part of the market with the capabilities to do that, that would give them a leg up on a lot of other luxury brands that are out there. Last year, we did hear about EREVs. EREV launches are apparently on track for 2027. They talked about a 600-mile range. They said it would be built on an EV platform with an internal combustion engine added. So there's two ways to do an EREV. One is to take an internal combustion platform add a giant battery pack, but Hyundai's going down the other route. So it sounds like maybe the next generation Ioniq 9 and Kia EV9 that we see might get this technology, or even the current vehicles might get it. They have indicated last year that it would be a larger SUV. So those seem to be the sort of vehicles where you've got enough room to add an internal combustion engine. B, it's also the sort of the vehicle, because it's designed to carry families and luggage and pets, that you might be concerned over range anxiety and less likely to buy a dedicated EV. But we got a couple years to wait for more details on that. You might recall that a number of years ago, Hyundai poached Albert Biermann from BMW's M division to do for Hyundai and N what he did for BMW and M. So the N models out of Hyundai now are extremely competitive performance variants. There will be 7 N models by 2030. This may or may not include the N-line variants, which aren't quite as hardcore as the mainline N models. But these are all higher priced and likely higher margin variants of existing mainstream vehicles. So it could be an additional profit generator for the brand. And then finally, they promised a new battery tech by 2027, 30% lower cost, 15% higher energy density, and 15% faster charge times. Now, this is not solid state. We know that Hyundai's working on solid state, but they didn't really get into it too much, at least not yet. But they are looking to improve existing battery technology. And that about wraps things up for this week in the news. Like I said, quite a diverse selection of topics this week. If you like what you saw and heard, please subscribe and share. Visit AutoPerspectives.net to check out our blog. Look for me on Substack as well. And we will see you back here next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.